following is a non-verdict-based research versus show. The stats of the individual characters are not taken into consideration when determining aspects of the fight. However, the characters themselves are going to be represented in their fullest capacity outside of stats. This is Versus Universe. The power of a demon is alluring, but such power does not come without cost. One must sacrifice much in the name of power, but these two are more willing than most in that regard, even at the cost of their own bodies. But with the tools at their disposal, you will know this devil's power. Vergil, wielder of the Yamato and brother and rival to the legendary devil hunter Dante from Devil May Cry, and Hiei, wielder of the Jigan and rival to Spirit Detective Yusuke from Yu Yu Hakusho. Let's begin. Long ago, in the far reaches of hell, there was a ruler, the Demon King Mundus. Almost all subjugated to his rule, as he was far too powerful for normal demons to fight after eating the fruit of the Clyphod tree, an apple made from human blood. One of Mundus's knights, the demon Sparta, realized the tyranny of his rule and woke up to justice to stop him once and for all. Sparta ran away and assumed the form of a human so that he could wed his human love, the woman named Eva. Eva and Sparta had two sons, twins in fact, one of them being the legendary devil hunter Dante, but the other, older brother, would be the dark slayer Vergil. Growing up, Vergil and Dante would often come to blows over very silly things, such as Vergil reading books instead of playing with his brother. However, once Sparta was taken out, Mundus's minions were free to attack Sparta's estate. Vergil was outside on a playground near his house, and while Dante and Eva were stuck inside during the attack, Vergil was forced to defend himself by his lonesome. Using the Yamato, the sword gifted to him by his father, he utterly failed, and a demon actually stabbed Vergil with the weapon. However, this awoke a new power in Vergil, his devil trigger. This increase in power meant he was able to easily sweep away the demons attacking him, but he was too late to save his mother. His brother, however, lived on as Tony Redgrave, unbeknownst to Vergil. So began Vergil's main quest, his quest for attainment of power. To make sure nothing like his mother's death ever happened again, Vergil sought out a power greater than his own. To do so, Vergil perfected his own style of combat, his Dark Slayer style. Using his ludicrous speed, Vergil appears to teleport in and out of existence with a blue poof, easily evading enemy attacks. He can trick side to side or up into the air for maximum movement, and can freely act out of a trick. The style goes great with the Yamato, as Vergil implements Iai Jutsu, or the quick draw style, with the katana. He has various combos he can do with this style, mostly revolving around rapidly slashing his opponents to smithereens. But all of that pales in comparison to the weapon's ultimate maneuver, the Judgment Cut. See, the most prominent property of the Yamato is its special ability, the possibility for the user to cut through anything. And when I say anything, I mean anything. Flesh, sure, that's normal, but how about the dimensions of time and space? Well, it can also do that, and that's where Vergil's Judgment Cut comes into play. This technique is when he uses the Yamato to literally cut the distance between him and his opponent, leaving them defenseless and Vergil defense-full. Basically, he can pick apart his opponents from a distance without having to actually dirty his hands, which he tends to dislike if he can help it. Which he usually can't, but hey, the man's main weapon is a sword. A sword that bends reality to its whims, sure, but it is still a sword. This mastery of the Yamato served him well when the scholar Arkham came to Vergil one day with a proposition that they, together, shall reconnect the demon and human realms once again. After a year of researching the subject, Vergil and the man began their plan with a singular, terrifying action: the raising of the Temen-ni-gru. This tower is what Sparta originally used to separate the two worlds, and now Vergil is planning on undoing that spell. Dante, however, was very much set on meeting his brother again after so many years of absence. After their year of silence, once again the brothers fought on top of the tower, and Vergil pretty effectively wrecked Dante's shit in. This was because Dante, unlike Vergil, did not have access to his devil trigger just yet, but Vergil made sure that the next time they fought, he would not lack such an ability, by stabbing him in the chest. We love the Sparta family here on Versus Universe, and their weird fixation on stabbing each other in the chest. Some time passed, and Vergil and Arkham reached the bottom of the Temen-ni-gru. ready to enact their plan once and for all. However, Vergil betrayed his compatriot after sensing a weakness in the man, his daughter, Lady. Arkham rightfully pointed out the hypocrisy in Vergil's words, saying that he was an incomplete being as well. Not taking his words in stride, Vergil marched forth into the chamber, and there he met the demon Beowulf. This demon was clearly no match for Vergil, but Vergil did something he rarely, if ever, does after defeating demon scum. He took his devil arm. Devil arms are essentially Robot Master weapons from Mega Man. You know, the item you get from beating the boss. Dante has a shit ton of these, but Vergil only really has Beowulf. But that's all he needs. Unlike Yamato, Beowulf lets Vergil really dish out melee damage like no other, with techniques such as the Lunar Phase or the Beast Uppercut. Such prowess is natural for a son of Sparta. Honestly, style might just be a genetic component of Sparta's seed. Such style is something Vergil tends to hide. Unless, of course, his brother just so happened to find him in the middle of failing to recombine the demon and human realms. Here, he was allowed to cut loose. And, yeah, he did, for sure. Finally using his devil trigger against his brother, both Vergil and Dante went all out, and this bout ended in a draw. However, Arkham came in, alive, somehow, and quickly bodied the now tired out Vergil and Dante, and also Lady, who was there. Good for her. Seemingly cast into the abyss, it seems this was the end for Vergil. That is, until it came time for Dante to face Arkham once and for all, and Vergil decided to show up again, showing off about how the power of Sparta, who Arkham now resembled, at least before turning into a tumor man, was beyond him, and that his power was too much for the human to handle. He and Dante made quick work of the man-made demon. The demon and human realms were still set to merge on the behest of Arkham's machinations. Dante was dead set on stopping Vergil's plan anyway, but Vergil made sure that he would not go down quietly. After a third and final battle inside the Temen-ni-gru, this time, the younger sibling prevailed. Pontificating on his defeat, Vergil decided his best course of action was to cast Dante away from where he was going, to the depths of the demon realm. Cutting his hand in a final act of brotherhood, Vergil fell to the realm of demons, leaving Dante to basically clean up his mess. But shortly thereafter, Vergil actually met with Mundus, the demon that slayed Sparta all that time ago. Vergil, still beaten badly from his bout with Dante, tried his best to take on the Demon King, but to no avail. The Yamato was smashed, and the former son of Sparta was sent not to his death, but to become a servant of Mundus. Now a pawn in Mundus' army, Vergil was no more. Instead, the hollow husk of the man that once occupied this body was to be called Nello Angelo, a mistranslation of the Italian phrase for Black Angel, and was sent to Malay Island to fight. Once there, he unsurprisingly met Dante once again, and once more after that, and again after that. Vergil just kinda has a thing for fighting Dante 3 times, doesn't he? But after that third fight, Angelo was unmasked, and Dante learned the horrifying truth of what Mundus had done to his brother. He doesn't really seem to care as much about that as he does his mother, but hey, some shit happened on that island, can't really blame him. Dante then promptly proceeded to explode him, and now Vergil was free, or dead, one of the two, maybe both, as it seems that the son of Sparta's body was decaying fastly, and he needed a plan to regain his strength. Luckily, he had just that, but that requires a bit of explaining. So, Vergil was on the town one night in the city called Fortuna, but just as Cody or they ordered the sword is a religion solely devoted to Spartan entities that help humanity, except it's actually shitty, but that's not important. What is important is that Vergil finds some random woman, she showed him her titties, he probably responded by saying, "What form of power is this?" And then they both fucked. Said fucking resulted in Nero, who being an offspring of Sparta, had demonic blood in him, same as Vergil. This resulted in the boy's devil bringer, essentially a permanent devil trigger on one limb. This armor responded to the Yamato that the order had for some reason, not really explained, and has ordered the sword into itself. Blah blah blah. Kratos something. And now Nero lives with Oni-chan and some hillbilly named Nico, and has Yamato in his devil bringer. So that's what Vergil's plan is based on. He could send Yamato in Nero's devil bringer, and sought to reclaim what was rightfully his. And he did. Using the last of his strength, he raised his blade and separated man from demon, resulting in 2 births, the human V and the demon Urizen. Urizen was quick to actively outkill Clifod, the same thing that Mundus used all that time ago. Gathering human blood in a cesspool of hell, Urizen waited for the apple to ripen. whereas V, immediately regretting Vergil's decision to separate himself, spent a month fending off Redgrave City from demonic attacks before he bit the silver bullet, and finally asked Dante to carry out the job for him. So Dante gathered his entire entourage to take out the old douchebag, and didn't go as planned. Went so bad, in fact, that Dante was knocked out of commission for an entire month after he and Urizen fought. In between that month, Nero and V took to fending off demons same as before, and V has a unique way of fighting. He summons creatures of old, who are actually discarded memories of Vergil's trauma from when he was working under Mundus as Nilo Angelo, and lets them wreck a demon shit right the fuck up. However, V himself has to be the one to kill the demon, leaving him to let his demons do the actual fighting while he lollygags until it's time to kill. Such technique doesn't really work on the higher level demons, but small fry, V can handle that no problem. See, when he split himself, V got basically no power, and Urizen regained most if not all of the energy Vergil had in his full form. After Dante awoke, however, there was almost no need for V, and so the group pushed the fight back against Urizen. However, the demonic side of Vergil was getting smarter, and he fled to where the actual fruit was ripening, the last layer of hell. Dante, Nero, and V followed, and the fight between brothers was a spectacle, to say the least. Urizen did end up eating the fruit of the Qliphoth, but even then, Dante's newfound power was no match for the demon. V stepped forward after Urizen's defeat, and started to quote some poetry before raising his cane one final time. This time, it was struck right into the middle of Urizen, and as a brilliant blue beam struck the last layer of hell, Vergil, once again, stood against Dante. Never relenting, Dante immediately began fighting Vergil once again, only for the recompleted son of Sparta to cast him aside, and ask him to meet atop the Qliphoth. He also thanked Nero for his help in aiding Redgrave City, and teleported up to the top of the Qliphoth, as he promised. When he reached there, for the first time in his life, instead of looking forward to the future and power he may gain, he instead looked back, and thought to himself, if Dante and his lives switched back when their mansion was attacked, would their lives be different? However, he quickly found such pontification pointless, as he waited for his brother to arrive, and when he did, they both went all out. Not relenting for a second, Vergil bowed out a few tricks before he could be bested. His doppelganger and his Sin Devil Trigger. Though we don't know exactly how he obtained it, it's safe to say that Vergil's Sin Devil Trigger came from Urizen eating the apple of the Qliphoth, and boy does it show. In this form, Vergil is at his most powerful, capable of all he is in his base form and regular Devil Trigger, while amplifying his power all the more and giving him access to flight. Doppelganger creates an exact clone of Vergil in his SDT, and fights alongside the original, and while very power consuming, both can be employed at once. This allowed Vergil to combat Dante's own Sin Devil Trigger, which is what let him triumph over Urizen. Their fight, however, was cut short, as Nero merged his own Devil Trigger. He, after a bit of roughhousing, convinced Vergil and Dante to stop fighting and instead work together to destroy the Qliphoth. Although they were hesitant at first, the twins agreed upon realizing that Nero was more than enough to keep things safe in the human realm. A quick stop at the Qliphoth route, and that thing is cut, leaving not a trace left in both realms. However, Dante and Vergil knew they would have no choice but to stay in this world, that they wouldn't have it any other way. An outlet to keep fighting each other, not for blood, but for fun, for the thrill of the battle this time, is what they both needed. And so, the story of the Sons of Sparta comes to an end, and Vergil presumably lives on in the pits of hell with his brother. However, should any test the limits of this devil's power, they shall know what the hell he brings to any that dare question his quest for power.
That day, if our positions were switched, would our fates be different? Would I have your life, and you mine? Let's settle this. Dante.
The world. Despite being finite, it is remarkable in its vastness. However, in the world of Yu Yu Hakusho, the human realm is not where the world ends. Instead, there exists both a spirit and demon world, where, well, spirits and demons reside. Demon world in particular, also called Makai, puts the human world to shame in terms of its vastness, almost literally being infinite. However, With the separation of these worlds, it only makes sense that there would be those that want to merge the worlds into one. Specifically, Spirit World tends to pick one individual with incredible spiritual energy from the human world to become the Spirit Detective, the one that protects the human world from demons. And after striking a deal with the Grim Reaper Botan, Yusuke Urameshi became the next in a long line of Spirit Detectives. This, however, is not his story. Instead, this is the story of one of the many demons he was tasked with taking down. This is the story of Hiei, the master of the evil eye. Hiei was originally born to an ice demon, and because he was an imiko, or a bastard child, he was sentenced to death by falling. However, Hiei actually survived his fall, and somehow remembered his mother's village despite being like a month old, and vowed vengeance on her. Although firstly, he was taken under by a group of bandits, and they taught Hiei how to use a sword. Despite being a literal child, Hiei's reputation quickly preceded him, as he seemed destined to slay any demon or human he came across. However, these bandits soon saw something around Hiei's neck, a necklace given to him by his mother that carried on it a valuable gemstone made of her tears. Hiei suddenly noticed their murderous intent and killed them all. Not to be outdone, after wandering Makai by his lonesome for some time, Hiei met the demon Shigure. This was for one specific reason: to implant the Jigan eye on him. The Jigan is a third eye that Hiei usually keeps under wraps. Literally. Concealed by a bandage, unless it's in use, the Jigan grants the user power unlike any they have ever had before, but at a cost. Hiei took a significant decrease in his demonic power, meaning he was now akin to one of the lower echelons of demon kind. Makai actually has its own ranking system of these kinds of things, and in this case, Hiei before getting the Jigan implanted on him was A class, but afterwards he was demoted to D class in strength. Hiei took this change in power in stride, as his reputation still preceded him in most areas of the demon world. This also led him to meet with Kurama, a powerful demon also depowered, but instead of it being because he implanted a magical artifact onto his person, it's because he became a little boy. Awesome. Together they ravaged the human world, easily picking it apart with their D-class strength. Eventually, they hatched a plan to gather 3 of the spirit world's finest artifacts. Unfortunately, the aforementioned world had a new protector in that Yusuke Urameshi kid. After defeating Hiei and Kurama's lackey, and befriending Kurama himself, it came time for Hiei to face Yusuke in a one-on-one fight. Kidnapping the boy's on-and-off-again girlfriend, the two fought in a warehouse, and using his quick wits, Yusuke managed to outdo the demon. However, he had one trick up his sleeve. One he never really uses again after this fight, the Jiganshi form. While in this form, Hiei's power rises incredibly, and a sickly green hue overtakes his normally pale skin, while eyes adorn his body all over. Even in this form, Yusuke managed to win against Hiei. This made the demon even angrier. However, he counted his losses and retreated, swearing revenge upon the spirit detective that beat him. That is, until both Hiei and Kurama were sentenced to probation by Spirit World, and they had to work alongside Yusuke and his other friend Kuwabara. This is the origin of Team Urameshi, 4 incredibly gifted fighters out to protect the human world from the land of demons. Hiei in particular was fond of swords from his infancy, and he never really grew out of that phase. He can slice and dice like nobody's business, and that on top of his ridiculous speed is nothing to be trifled with. Hiei is consistently shown to be the fastest member of Team Urameshi by a wide margin, having to keep pace with many dangerous foes and help the gang out of traps on more than one occasion. Said power serves him well when he fights an enemy of his own power, but upon fighting a foe stronger than him, well, he tends to struggle. This ties into Hiei's moral code. He will not go all out on an enemy he deems weaker than himself. And, he deems a lot of his enemies weaker than himself. Nearly all of them, in fact. This makes him shoot himself in the foot more often than not, despite his power being unprecedented. Fortunately, the mission he was sent on at first was a piece of cake for him. The demon he was tasked with eliminating barely got a word in before he sliced him into pieces. After they completed that task, Hiei wandered into the human world, but not to gain anything this time. Instead, it was to protect something. His long-lost sister, Yukina. See, Hiei is not an only child. In fact, he is a fraternal twin, After being cast out by his mother, Yukina grew up surrounded by the ice apparitions, unaware of the existence of an older brother. Hiei intended to keep it that way, as he actually was aware of the existence of his sister. This is because he actually revisited his village before implanting the Jigan Eye into his head, and swore to kill all that inhabited that domain. However, once he realized that his mother killed herself in grief over having cast out her child, and that Yukina roamed the demon world alone looking for a long-lost brother, he realized he had better shit to be doing than to kill mostly innocent ice ladies. Said important shit was mainly just looking after Yukina from a distance. This is actually the main reason he had the Jigan Eye implanted into his head, so that he may watch over her without risking her realizing who he is. Too bad she went and got herself kidnapped. Where were you on that one, Hiei? But it's fine, Yusuke and Kuwabara were there to fix shit up. Hiei did eventually show up to kill the person that kidnapped Yukina, but she convinced him otherwise. Perhaps she is the only thing that could quell his killer persona. That is, unless some sort of tournament was happening to start in Makai and Hiei needed to participate in it. Oh, but yeah, that's exactly what happened. The Dark Tournament, a corrupt tourney where demons fight each other in teams for the grand prize of a single wish for the winning team's leader, was just about underway. One of the guys who aided in Yukina's kidnapping, the younger Toguro brother, personally invited Yusuke and his crew by saying if they didn't join, they'd be throwing away their lives. So Hiei, along with Kurama, Yusuke, Kuwabara, and a mysterious fifth party member, who totally isn't just Yusuke's teacher in disguise, headed off to the tournament. Hiei stepped in at the first round to fight Zeru, a seemingly powerful fire demon. That is, until Hiei managed to reveal the ace up his sleeve for the first time. The Dragon of the Darkness Flame.
Dragon! Ah! The Darkness Flame!
Through channeling the depths of the demon world, Hiei's flames transcend to an impressive blackness that no demon can possibly stand up to. Even himself. Well, kind of. The Dragon of the Darkness Flame is certainly a powerful technique, and one that Hiei tends to use often, but it does have a drawback: control. Upon first releasing it, Hiei had absolutely no control over where the attack ended up, and only used his arm to channel the dragon. Going forward, he learned how to control the dragon more effectively, but because of his brash use of this technique, Team Urameshi was one member short for a long while, since Hiei was down an arm after releasing the dragon for the first time. As such, unlike his teammates who all fought around 8 people each and had a bit of a back and forth, he instead fought in 4 matches, all of which he won, including Yoga Toguro's own Bui, who despite putting up more than a challenge for the vertically challenged demon, was made quick work of when the dragon came into play. Yusuke ended up defeating Toguro in the tournament, and he used his wish on some old person to come back to life, which honestly seems like a waste. She's old, she's gonna die like any day now, Yusuke. You dumbass. Hiei, after the tournament, went away for a long while from the group, trying to tame the demon within while also again watching over Yukina, who kind of has a thing for Kuwabara, much to Hiei's chagrin. But then, there was another asshole named Sensui, who was trying to connect the demon and human worlds because of a tape he saw when he was the spirit detective. This tape is known throughout the spirit and demon world as Chapter Black, the recordings of all of humanity's wrongdoings. Every single one. Including versus debate. Although such a thing would surely interest Hiei, upon learning that he was not the strongest a demon could possibly be, right now he was an upper B class at raw strength, resumed his training and let Yusuke and his gang faff about while they handled most of the problems being caused by Sensui. Eventually, while watching the events unfold from a distance, Hiei managed to save Yusuke from a pawn of Sensui's named Sniper. He was a bit of a piss baby about it, but Hiei decided that he wanted Yusuke to square up, and so they both fought again, for the first time since he kidnapped that girl. Her name's Keiko. It's not really important, but I feel bad calling her girl constantly. They both fought pretty well, solely relying on their fists rather than their normal abilities. But in the end, it was clear that there would be no real victor in this fight. With that warning, Hiei sent Yusuke on his way to fight Sensui. And fight him, he did. That is, until Sensui, who was an S class in strength by the way, completely and totally bodied Yusuke and killed him. Hiei, who had been watching on from the sidelines, for the first time in his life, acted on an emotional impulse, and despite knowing he was far weaker than the human, he started sending dragon after dragon Sensui's way. Kurama and Kuwabara followed suit, and tried their best to avenge their friend's death. That is, until said friend went Super Saiyan 3 because an ancient demon inside him was released and resurrected him from the dead. for the second time, and then he kicks Sensui's ass. Hiei and Kurama simply laughed after this, putting this whole thing behind them. Until, that is, Yusuke's new power was apparently an ancient demon king that ruled over a third of the demon world, and the entirety of Makai was waiting for him to reawaken so that they could settle a bit of a property dispute. Said dispute being, I want what you have, but 3 ways. Ryzen, the king that was revealed to be Yusuke's ancestor, had 2 compatriots that also ruled over a third of Makai. Yomi, who had a storied history with Kurama, and Mukuro, who took an immediate liking to Hiei. Hiei trained under her relentlessly, perfecting techniques he had improvised during the Dark Tournament. These techniques include the Sword of the Darkness Flame, in which he extends his broken sword with the dragon's essence to create a blade that can essentially cut through anything. Where have I heard that before? And the Fist of the Mortal Flame, which involves Hiei channeling the much weaker flames of the human realm to pummel into his opponent. He's not very fond of that last one, but training under Mukuro, Hiei began to really enjoy her company and personage, and got her to open up enough to reveal her backstory to him. Which, yikes. It's a lot. Like, content warning. Rape? I think she was raped a lot while she was a little girl. A very little girl that got raped. So, there's another tournament. This time it's to see who will become the rightful ruler of Makai. Because Yusuke is a dumbass, Hiei entered, and surprise surprise he ended up fighting Mukuro. In a fight he knew he would end up losing. He, for the first time, did not try to simply end his opponent as quickly as possible. Instead, his main goal was to make the girl confront her past and be able to grow as a person, as he was able to do after meeting the spirit detective. And, despite losing the fight, he succeeded. Mukuro was free of the shackles that bound her, and Hiei left the arena, content in his strength and his goals being accomplished. Afterwards, he set out to roam the demon world yet again, this time more contemplative than trigger-happy. However, if you ever question this demon's power, he will not hesitate to pull you into oblivion.
You should never have insulted the Jagan Eye. Because you see, in a way it has its own mind and loathes disrespect. Resisting it is not something I would do.
We open to a shot of a broken down temple, with Hiei meditating in the middle of it all. Suddenly, through the bandage on his forehead, his Jagan Eye glows a brilliant red, as he senses an immensely powerful demon entering the area. As the Jagan senses this, Vergil arrives at the ruins through a portal made with the Yamato. Vergil begins to speak to Hiei, who's still facing away from the son of Sparta, eyes closed.
I sensed a powerful demon in this area. It's not often you'd find one lurking outside the demon realm, so I decided to look for myself.
Hiei begins getting up from his resting position, still facing away from Vergil.
I can sense immense power within you as well. You must be at least an S-class. It's a shame you came here to die.
Hiei then blinks away from where he was standing, eviscerating into a sphere of smoke before appearing before Vergil suddenly and swinging his sword at the half-demon's face. Vergil, using his immense reaction speed, takes the scabbard of the Yamato and blocks Hiei's attack with ease.
Scum. This shall be your grave.
Vergil then unsheathes Yamato and begins slicing at Hiei. A diagonal slash across his chest, a horizontal slash on his torso, and 1,000 rapid-fire swings end with a singular judgment cut, tattering Hiei's shirt into pieces. As this happens, he becomes acutely aware of the power he must unleash.
Don't insult me or the Jagan Eye.
As Vergil comes at Hiei once more, using the same attack he did before, each blow Vergil strikes at him is blocked, as slowly but surely Hiei's headband is burned into a cinder, as the power of the Jagan has finally been unleashed.
So that's the extent of his power. I'll end this quickly.
Vergil begins to ready an immense judgment cut end, but meanwhile...
Dragon of the Darkness Flame!
Two of their most powerful moves clash against each other, each perched on a rock cliff perfectly suited for this type of duel. As the attacks connect, Each slash of the Judgment Cut end strikes at the dragon, but the fire of the dragon still runs true. Eventually, both attacks run out of juice and essentially fizzle out, creating a purple aura that envelops the moon as the fight moves on.
Interesting. You may prove worthy yet.
Vergil then lunges forward at Hiei, Yamato extended forward at the demon's throat.
Show me your motivation, demon!
Hiei easily sways Yamato to the side. However, another Yamato appears and smacks him away, as Vergil has just summoned his doppelganger.
Two?
Hiei then readies a Dragon of the Darkness Flame and takes to sword combat, fighting off the two Vergils at once. Two sets of Yamatos caught at him, and although he struggles at first, through using his Jigan, he starts to block their attacks more efficiently. Evading the devil's power, Hiei lands a decisive blow, and as they are both stunned, mashes both of their faces together to recomplete Vergil. While Vergil is recovering, Hiei takes an opportunity to belittle his opponent.
You have a hefty bag of tricks, devil. I'll give you that. But my Jigan sees all, and knows all.
Hiei then begins to psychically lock Vergil in a hold. Vergil attempts to escape, but is having trouble. He does, however, notice that his right arm, the arm holding Yamato, is somewhat loose. He then begins to lunge at the son of Sparta.
Scatter to the wind!
Vergil smirks slightly before saying,
Troubled, wildered, and forlorn. Dark, benighted. Travel worn.
Vergil overpowers the psychic barrier on him with his right arm, and stabs the Yamato into himself, releasing V and his demons.
It's been a while, hasn't it? Well, let's take our time.
Suddenly, a swarm of energy blasts and attacks befall Hiei, who has no choice but to guard against the wreckage that is happening to him. Shadow slashes and claws at him relentlessly, Griffin shoots extremely devastating lightning, and Nightmare fires extremely large lasers, and cultivates it all with a slam down into the ground, knocking Hiei off of his feet. Suddenly, from where Hiei was slammed, a huge burst of demonic power is unleashed, as Hiei's true form is revealed. He is now the Juganshi, a form he never thought he'd have to resort to again. He turns to a sickly green, and eyes adorn his entire personage in a grotesque display. He is visibly displeased at having to resort to this form, and yet he laments.
I can tell, you know, that you aren't a full demon. That some sickly combination of human demon blood mingles in your veins. It's foolish, really, to think someone like that would be enough to challenge me. But you've surprised me, devil. However, I grow tired of these games. It's time to end this. Your end is at hand.
As V is recombined back into Vergil, he takes a second before standing upright at the demon's last remarks.
I thought the same thing, demon. Demonic scum usually pose no challenge to me. But this... it's unlike anything I've experienced before. You remind me of someone.
Hiei cocks his eyebrows in confusion.
Whoever could I remind you of, half-breed?
It doesn't matter. All it means is that you're just another stepping stone on my journey to absolute power.
Hiei, despite Vergil's threat, then begins to realize something himself.
Ah, yes. I too sense some of him in you, don't I? Your power may be admirable, devil, but you see, the Jigan has a mind of its own, and all it cares about right now is your death!
Vergil, sensing the sudden shift in Hiei's disposition, takes his own opportunity to power up before their final clash. Suddenly, in a flash of blue light, where the man once was, the demon takes root. Vergil is now in his Sin Devil Trigger bearing striking resemblance to a dragon, complete with wings. He then begins to face down Hiei and lunges straight at him with his newfound flight. Hiei does the same, instead catapulting himself off the pavement where he just was and some broken pillars to reach Vergil. Hiei, channeling the dragon still, pummels Vergil into the ruins below, creating yet another gigantic crater. Vergil, unfazed, gets right back up and, equipping Beowulf, does the same to Hiei. However, he also uses his Mirage Blades to rain down swords on Hiei as he attempts to recover, and pins him down while flying at well over Mach speeds, while stabbing Hiei in the abdomen with the Yamato. However, Vergil did not account for Hiei doing the same to him. In his chest, Hiei's sword lay deep in his heart. Vergil steps back before taking Hiei's blade and forcibly cutting off the hilt and part of the base of the sword, leaving the rest of it in him.
You still have tricks, I see. But I believe your time has run out.
Using his right arm, suddenly 3 dragons emerge from where Hiei stood, a massive black wave of energy erupting at Vergil, who, using his newfound energy and mobility, quickly starts evading these dragons as they take flight. Moving around in zigzags and loop-de-loops, the dragons all follow Vergil with an unrelenting fervor. It takes nearly all of his might, but with a few well-placed judgment cuts, he managed to quell at least 2 of these dragons. The last one, however, fell right onto him and scathed him in the fires of hell itself. Noticeably scarred, even in this form, Vergil takes a minute before looking at Hiei, who is smirking beyond belief at his dragon's success. Vergil too smirks as he, even in this battle-damaged state, begins to ready his last attack against the demon.
Don't get so cocky! Witness true power!
As Vergil and Hiei begin to dash at each other one last time, Vergil uses his wings to speed at his opponent faster than Hiei can run, and with that speed manages to grab a hold of the arm Hiei uses to summon the Dragon of the Darkness Flame and tear it clean off. Demonic blood gushes from out of Hiei's side. Vergil readies Yamato to slice off Hiei's head, but backs off, contemplatively.
Your name?
Hiei, still writhing in pain, looks on, confused.
What kind of question is that? Just kill me.
Vergil looks over his shoulder at the demon.
Normally I'd make quick work of demons like you, but you're different. I'd wish to fight you again, given the chance. So, your name?
Hiei takes a few seconds before responding.
Hiei. My name is Hiei of the Jigan.
Hiei, still clutching his arm trying to contain the bloodshed, looks forward at Vergil, who then begins opening a portal with the Yamato before saying,
Hiei, heal your wounds, get stronger. After that, we shall fight again. But never forget this devil's power.
As he says that, he steps through the portal, leaving Hiei alone. Hiei thinks of what to do, but all he can do is lay down and rest after their fight. He swears to himself to get stronger, so that he may one day kill this half-breed demon. Said demon is long gone, aimlessly wandering these ruins far away from Hiei once more. The son of Sparta continues his search for power, as the moon glows on a beautiful lavender over his quest. As Vergil begins to fly down on his opponent, Hiei readies an attack unseen by the son of Sparta. Vergil lunges down, but in a brilliant flash of pure blackness, the Yamato is knocked out of his hands, and he is impaled by something.
Sword of the Darkness Flame!
Suddenly, from one end of the broken sword earlier, the side it was impaled on, nothing happens. But on the other side, a massive eruption of demonic energy pierces through Vergil's body, leveling not even the entire area they were fighting, but the surrounding ruins as well. Vergil has no idea of this mass destruction. As he looks on it, he is face horrified of this demon's true power. Vergil is also knocked out of his Sin Devil Trigger due to this.
Your power. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. How are you so powerful?
He smirks before retorting.
Because, half-breed, I am a full demon. You are a pale imitation, and imitation though you may be, you were worthy enough to withstand the full might of my Jigan. That is enough for me to spare you. So continue your search for power. You will need it when we meet again.
Hiei then powers down from his Jiganshi form and begins calmly walking away, leaving Vergil to recover from both the dragon that landed on him and that final attack. Vergil, however, begins to speak up from his stupor before Hiei leaves completely.
Why won't you Kill me.
Hiei looks over his shoulder before responding.
You and I, we are alike in many regards. I can sense that much. If our positions were switched, our fates different, you would have done the same for me. I simply did what you would have, demon.
Upon calling him a demon for the first time in their fight, Hiei fully walks away, leaving Vergil to lament his loss. However, as Hiei said, this only fueled his desire to get stronger, to obtain more power. As he does just that, Hiei waits in the demon realm for another worthy opponent, readying himself once again in a meditative state. However, should anyone insult his power or the Jigan once again, he will not hesitate to pull them into oblivion with no mercy. Okay, so let's just jump into it, I suppose. Now, the main thing I see that would be contentious for this fight is the fact that they do not kill each other. And sure, on the outset it may seem like that's the only way a fight between these two could end. However, I wanted to showcase how their characters have changed throughout their respective series, and that culminates in them both not wanting to kill each other, at least after they both survive each other's mightiest attack. And, hey, showcasing character development is not something you get to do often when you write versus battles, so I'm gonna take my chance to do this and run with it until I fucking die. Other than that, there's not much to say. Vergil didn't really have any counters towards Hiei's psychic abilities, but Hiei uses them so rarely that it doesn't really matter. Hiei using Jiganshi and firing 3 dragons, despite being from a non-canon film, I thought would be interesting to juxtapose against Vergil's Sin Devil Trigger. The inclusion of V I see confusing some people, so I'll just explain it now. Vergil can resummon V whenever he wants to. He just needs to re-stab himself. If you're wondering why Urizen doesn't show up, well, it's a bit headcanon-y, but I like to believe that it's because Vergil has grown past his need for power, and is just vibing nowadays with his pro. Yeah, that's basically it. This video is needlessly long as it is, so why bother cluttering it with an overly detailed post-fight analysis? So, ask me how my day's going, and I'll see you guys next time for the season finale of Versus Universe, Season 1. Bye!
Tell me, for what purpose did you choose to slaughter all of my people? Depending on your answer, I'll send you to Joint Cup. I can see the future. You don't live to see tomorrow.
But you forgot one thing. I'm my father's son.
Are half the fun, and sometimes they're mind-bogglingly terrifying.
May your heart be your guide. Apology accepted, Captain Leader.
Then I shall do the same.
Everybody deals with grief differently, right? Some people fuck at funerals. I cut off heads.
I don't help people. I kill them.
But soon they shall know this devil's power. A power greater than they ever imagined. The power of a son of Sparta.
I have the power to pull you into oblivion. I assume just my right arm will do.
It's showtime!